What's going on, y'all? Sean here with a new live. I haven't been live for a while, but I wanted to talk about something that just came to me. I'm gonna put a thumbnail in this video, and it's gonna say, "How do you am?" And obviously, bad grammar. But what I mean by "am" is the word "am" really kind of speaks to like being, like um, being alive, being a person, being existing, you know. And I was thinking about how I kind of don't if I really think about it, there are ways that I'm holding myself back because I don't really identify myself with where it is I'm trying to go. Now, um the reason why I say this is something I actually read in the scripture, a couple of scripture passages, but I want to challenge you here before I even get into that. If you're having trouble with your fitness, if you're having trouble with your health, if you kind of been on like the hamster wheel, so to speak, of trying this solution to reach your health goal or fitness goal and it doesn't work, and then trying that one and reaching for a goal that you never achieve, part of the issue might just be that you don't really identify with where you are trying to go. Now, I don't want to sound deep, but a lot of this stuff I'm just kind of putting together, like I said, based on what I read earlier today, based on a lot of things I've heard, like in church or listening to entrepreneurial kind of like people who've been very successful in business and entrepreneurship and stuff like that. And so it's starting to make a lot of sense to me, even when I look over my life and see what I have achieved. Um, anyway, I digress. So let me explain what I'm saying. So what I read in the Bible today, it was the passage where God tells Abram that he's going to have a son, but he changes his name. He says, I'm going to call you're not gonna be Abram anymore, you're gonna be Abraham, the father of many nations. And Abram didn't mean that. I think if I remember correctly, that name meant like high father or something like that. But his name was being changed to the father of many. And so Abram was old and had no kids, but he was told that he was going to have kids. So he believed for that in spite of how old he was. But with the passage of time, you still not seeing it. It seems like it's not going to happen. But the creator actually told him, I want you to call yourself differently. And the thing with names back in the Bible days, I won't even say back in the quote Bible days, but also like in a lot of other cultures in here in America, it's not so as much, at least not the way I see. But names tend to mean a lot when people are in other nations. And I think that's great, by the way. But what somebody was named was very, very important as to like speaking to who they were. So anytime you would say somebody's name, they understand to some degree that you're calling them this, like so Abram being changed to Abraham and then his wife being changed from Sarah to Sarah, it's calling them you mother many people, you father many people, even though they didn't see it. And so I was really challenged by this. I actually was going to get a car battery, and I was challenged to wonder like, do I really identify with where I'm trying to go in my health and even with my life overall? So there's three things that I wanted to talk about that came to my mind as far as like how I can better identify with the very, very fit and healthy and well-rounded, the whole person that I'm striving for. Because just think about it. If you're told if you believe that you're going to achieve something, how must it be for you to go ahead and start to live like that person, to identify as that person before seeing them? Again, I've heard this a lot but like I'm really striving to take this kind of stuff seriously and make it very practical. So this is what I'm thinking. So I don't want to talk about this like I'm some sort of expert because I'm not. But this is how I'm thinking about how I'm going to have to change how I identify, so to speak, so that I can become the healthiest, fittest version of myself. So it's three things. One, what do I actually call myself? And I explain these later. Two, how am I presenting myself? And then three, how am I conducting myself? Okay. Now, I'm not trying to be deep. I'm not. But I'm trying to make it I'm trying to break it up into chunks so I can get this because this is something I'm actively working on. So to change my identity, I am specifically working on what I actually call myself, how I present myself, and then how I conduct myself. So what I mean how I call myself. So like in the Bible, God told Abram to call himself Abraham. And so and also people are going to refer to him from that point on as Abraham. Okay? So I'm actually calling I want when you think of yourself and somebody asks you what your name is, you tell them I'm the father of many nations. Okay? And so I'm thinking about what is it because I desire to be, for example, just very fit, very much in shape, very healthy, no aches, no pains, all this kind of stuff. What can I do to refer to myself as that so that every time I think of myself, this is what I think about? The first thing that came to my mind was like affirmations, which I've kind of had a up and down kind of relationship with affirmations. Part of me is like, man, what's the use of affirmation? Just kind of saying whatever stuff. But another thing I've learned in my life is I'm a type of person sometimes where I do kind of like wait until the right moment, so to speak, or till I get the right information. But I've learned also that you don't necessarily wait to start when you have the right information because a lot of times you just don't know. You just kind of go off of what you have, if that makes sense. So, like, you know, I don't really have to know whether or not scientifically affirmations work and whatnot. I do know that certain things I've heard over a long period of time in my life, I believe it's just like with health and fitness. I always heard my dad saying, um, I'm never gonna have a gut. My dad always said that about himself. And so that's something that I unconsciously, or I say subconsciously, adopted for my own self. It's like, like I like that. I understood as a boy that I don't have to have a gut. I understood seeing the example of my dad that I could be in shape all of my life. He's still in shape and he still doesn't have a gut, never has. So, so I know what I've heard over time, I have believed. And so it's like, you know what? Let's try affirmations. Now I'm not gonna go through, I'm gonna work out whatever I kind of say, but I'm basically gonna say stuff to the effect of I am an elite athlete. I am a healthy eater, which I eat pretty healthy now. I could improve, but these are kind of things I'm gonna say. I am a finisher. When I start something, I finish it. So when I start, like when I'm trying to reach one of my fitness goals, like for example, I'm gonna start working on reaching a certain time in a 200-meter sprint. I am gonna finish that. I am gonna achieve that. I'm gonna start the goal and I'm going to finish that goal. Okay. And so these are the kind of things that I am going to actually affirm to myself, like a list of things. I'm not gonna make it huge because a lot of times when I make a list of affirmations, then I'll make like a huge long list and it's daunting. And then next thing you know, I quit. Okay. So what do I call myself? Like what is it that I'm saying to myself every day? And how can I actually call myself something that actually affirms where I believe it's been placed in my heart by God to go? What I believe for, the stuff that's in my heart that I carry with me every day. The second thing is how do I present myself? And all I mean by that is like how do I carry myself, like the way that I dress, the way I keep my like my physical appearance, the way that I keep my vehicle, um, the way that I just keep my things, the way that I kind of do what I do. How do I present? Do I present as someone who is healthy, fit, a whole person, complete, or am I instead presenting myself as one who doesn't really have it together? Somebody who's always just trying. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, I've heard of people who, whenever they were getting on their fitness journey, they went and got a whole new wardrobe, and just them wearing different clothes helped them to feel like they were, kind of like a different person. Then they put themselves in a different environment, and that kind of like really started something, because what happened is it kind of started something here. It kind of started changing their mind. They kind of started to kind of merge more so with that fit person that they wanted to be, even though they weren't necessarily used to seeing themselves as that fit person. They just, started wearing fitness clothes. They just started maybe wearing their hair a certain way. They maybe started to wear a certain kind of athletic sneakers, or even in other aspects of life, kind of like carrying myself like, okay, I actually am one who prioritizes um like um taking care of myself, and it shows in my outer appearance. You know what I mean? The reason why I started chuckling is because I was thinking about the dude, which I'm going to talk about my third point, the dude Ashton Hall, who he's been getting a lot of flack. If you don't know who Ashton Hall is, he's this guy who is known for posting about his health and fitness routines, like he has very, very extensive routines from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, and like dunking his face in the Saratoga water with ice, and you know um different things, like setting 4 alarms and taking 4 minutes to jump into the pool to get a swim in the morning. So I digress, but I'm gonna explain a little bit more like why I mentioned even Ashton Hall. But like, even if you look at him, that's one thing I admire him for. I don't necessarily jive with all the stuff he does, but like, to the very least, he puts a lot of attention into how he presents himself. And so whether or not I jive with everything that he does, it doesn't really matter. It's more so like taking that stuff very seriously. So, like I said, I'm gonna be working on what I call myself. Like, so in other words, how I affirm and refer to myself every day, how I present myself, so the way that I dress, the way that I keep myself up, that type of deal. And then the third thing is how I conduct myself. And so I mean is this kind of goes more specifically to the routine. What am I doing every day? So one thing I say, and I just be transparent on this video. So like I'm pretty good with like my fitness routines, but there's always stuff that I'm wanting to achieve. But sometimes I don't, because I don't really stop and think about what I want to do differently. For example, I have quotas, numbers of certain calisthenics exercises that I'm supposed to get most days of the week. Like, for example, I have 2 upper body days. On my upper body days, I'm supposed to get 100 chin ups. I'm supposed to get now 250 push ups. Sometimes I don't get those because I don't really think about my time well. And that can't be. I want to reach those numbers every time I do upper body. For lower body, I'm supposed to actually I used to do 200 lunges. I mean 400 lunges really, but that's kind of changed a bit. Um but I don't really have a set number for the amount of squats I'm supposed to get lower body, because I just kind of do those after every set of weighted deadlifts. But anyway, let me not get into all that stuff. My point is, oh, and then I also have certain kind of numbers of ab stuff. Like, I'm supposed to be 200 crunches on my upper body and my lower body days. Okay. And there's other things I won't get into now, but my point is creating routines around that. There's other things I'm supposed to have routines around. Like, another thing is like at night and in the morning, I'm supposed to do deep breathing, like around the time that I have meditation and prayer. I'm supposed to do deep breathing for a few minutes, and of course, like I say, pray, and then just sit and think. And I'm supposed to stretch every night, which I was doing really consistently for a while. Now I've kind of gotten a little spotty, but just being spotty is not that's not acceptable because I have places I'm trying to get to. You know what I mean? And so if I really identify as this person, like what am I doing to really lock that stuff in? What am I doing to lock it in? Another thing I'm supposed to do, and this is like a personal goal of mine, like really, like I'm supposed to like massage my scalp to kind of like relieve tension, and also supposed to stimulate blood flow, perhaps even, kind of get some hair growth, uh, restarted. This kind of one of the things that I believe could probably help me to kind of get hair back thickened and whatnot. And that's just a personal goal of mine. I'm just kind of being transparent about, but still, if I have that goal and I'm supposed to incorporate that into my routine, but I'm spotty and I just keep on just kind of hoping for it, like that's just not cool. I know it's not cool for me, but these are things, like I say, what I call myself, how I'm presenting myself every day, how I'm conducting myself, like what kind of morning routines, what kind of evening routines, even afternoon routines I am making myself do faithfully, regardless of whatever else is happening. How am I conducting myself so that these things happen every single day faithfully so I can be who I believe that God has created me to be, so I can have the absolute best health and fitness possible for me to have. So anyway, I'm just giving you kind of window into like what I'm doing. It'll probably reflect in the kind of content that I create after this, but hopefully it challenges you to kind of think about these things too, because I really believe I'll say this and I'll let you go. Thank you for those of you who joined in. But I really believe, like when I think about people who I've trained in the past as a personal trainer, or people who've asked me for advice, one thing I notice is that they tend to be negative about themselves. They tend to say things that me, from my vantage point, from my expertise as a personal trainer and just one who just been about fitness since I was a teenager or younger, they'll say things that I'm like, well, that's not really true. They say things that show that they don't really that they think negatively about their bodies, or they think negatively about their physical abilities, or they think negatively about discomfort, which actually is a big part of getting healthy, getting in shape, kind of doing things that aren't comfortable. Um, but I think negatively about these things, and it's things that I realize whenever I hear them because of my background. I'm like, oh no, no, you got it, you can do this. No, that's not true about you. You can. A little discomfort it's not gonna destroy you. You'll be fine. But I realize again, it's about changing the way you think, changing the way you see yourself. And so hopefully if something has resonate with you and you're challenged to change your identity. So specifically, so you can really become the fullest version of whoever it is you're supposed to be. So who you're supposed to be ain't me, and then vice versa. And we're not supposed to be like some celebrity or famous person. We're supposed to be who we're supposed to be so that we can make our unique contribution to the world. So if this resonate with you, comment, below the video or whatever. And let's do this, man, because again, you only have one life on this side, and why not be intentional? Because it's a lot of people out there who are very intentional about how they carry themselves, the routines that they're practicing without fail every single day, every moment. They're very, very intentional. And so, the crazy thing about it is that so a lot of people are intentional about things that aren't really good. So why not? Yeah, no problem, no problem. Vegan rider. So why not we be intentional about good things? Being healthy, the healthiest, fittest version of yourself is a good thing. But let's be ultra intentional about it. Being a whole person, which is really the ultimate thing I believe in. Nothing missing in any area of life, nothing lacking. like, that's a good thing. Being healthy so that you can contribute to your loved ones, your friends, those who are close to you, so you can kinda do things in life without not being able to do them because you got aches and pains and health problems. That is a good thing. So let's do it, y'all. Let's do it. Again, I appreciate you who commented. If anybody watches this after the live stream and you got something to say, whatever is triggered in you, like what you're going to do to intentionally shape and change your identity, put it in the comments. And let's get it, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and move on because I got stuff to do. But thank y'all for tuning in and have a good one. Make sure you like and subscribe too. All right, y'all.